Yes, indeed. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to introduce your first contestant for the day in the Asus ROG Assembly Winter Tournament. From Team Empire, and hailing, of course, from the Ukraine. He is in the red trunks. He is playing Terran. Give it up for Empire Cass! And his amazing pausing skills.
And he's just changing some looks of it.
That's the way.
I mean, looking at both of these two players, we have the NASL 2 times in a row champion.
Yep.
And that's not only his results, he also finished second at DreamHack, of course. He's won an IEM before. He just has so many accomplishments. But on the other hand, Cass has always been the destroyer online in tournaments. You know, he hasn't had that much success offline. He always did well in group stages, but then failed as he went into the second half of the tournament. But most recently, as Semler did point out in the opening little talk with Cass, is that he had an amazing run at IEM Kiev, finishing 3rd place overall, and that confidence boost alone should help him tremendously within this tournament.
Yeah, he's really gotten over those LAN problems that he had. He was like the original online guy for wrecking online tournament after online tournament. He still is. He's incredibly good at that. But when he started going to LANs, he struggled a little bit. However, he is going to be facing off against an extremely, extremely dangerous opponent. As you said, goes by the name of the Perfect Terran. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the blue trunks, of course, from Team Evil Geniuses, hailing from Korea, playing Terran in the Northeast. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Puma.
Puma. He is so good. I was looking at his, games and VODs recently, and there's like no weaknesses, man. He's just so good. There's everything he's just so strong at. And he's already shown us that he's gassed first here. The refinery has gone down and completed. So he's already looking to be aggressive early on. Probably going to be into Banshees, and the thing is, as the Perfect Terran and the way that Puma plays is he can do multiple things with ease. He can control a Banshee in someone else's base while not missing a beat in his own. So he's going to look to put the pressure on Cass, who plays a very predictable style, a very gasless expansion as we're seeing, who will be on the defensive early on. So the question here is, already in game number 1 of the Assembly Tournament, will Puma be able to penetrate the defensive of Cass with just Banshees, or will Cass be able to defend with purely Marines?
If he can defend, he's going to be in such an amazing position. We know that Cass is very much a macro player. He's got the reputation of being a macro player. Don't let the Destroyer fool you. That doesn't mean aggressive Cass. That means incredibly efficient, very high production. Once Cass gets rolling, his war machine is basically unstoppable. So what you want to do as any player is try and disrupt that. If you let Cass take 3 bases, which he loves to take nice and early on, if you let him go gasless expand and you don't do anything to him, then horrible things will happen to you. Once he gets rolling, he never stops, he never slips up on his macro at any point.
And if Cass was paying attention with that Marine on the ramp, he should notice that Marine popped out as the SC went up there. And even though that's a small indication, if he puts 2 and 2 together, he should say, why did Marine just pop out? Therefore, he could actually put together that the refinery was down first. So we'll see if Cass picks up on any of that. He's playing a very traditional style, very similar to how he plays against Protoss. The 2nd and 3rd barracks has gone down. We'll want to take the gases shortly so we can start to upgrade those Marines, probably with a combat shield, sorry. But there we do see the tech lab on the front for Puma. There is the starport as well. We are going to see Hellions just wearing down Marines potentially if they are on the naked expansion of Cass. And there is the switch up and the Cloak Banshee. Well, not really Cloak Banshee because he only has 1 refinery. So it looks like it will be just a single Banshee. But Cass has no idea if it is Cloak or not and may invest more in defense than he actually needs.
Yeah, that can always be dangerous. And Cass splitting his Marines up quite nicely there. Even just a little micro trick to keep both alive and drive that Hellion back. The risk is, of course, putting this starport directly on the ramp. But with that Hellion out, the map control that Puma actually has means that there's really no way. A scan can get it, sure, but Cass is not going to want to spend that. He is very macro orientated. He knows how important it is to make sure that he can get out those mules all the time, every time, nail it, and never waste a single shred of energy.
And as we said earlier, Puma's taken an investment with his money. And there goes a perfect scan, by the way, by Cass. Sees everything, sees the 2nd gas going, which is the most important thing out of all that, because he could have already knew that Banshees were coming, because he saw that Hellion's out so early, and obviously that means that the starport has to be a follow-up. But now he scans and sees the second refinery only just starting. Therefore, he knows he doesn't need to rush for an engineering wave, doesn't need to rush for turrets. And the Marines alone he has should be enough to hold this. But like we said, Puma has to do damage here.
Yes.
Cass's expansion has been up for so long, and Puma's only just now at 70% of his natural expansion.
Yeah, I mean, you might notice that the worker count is equal. That is deceptive. Don't be fooled by that. There's been mules coming down, double production for a while. He's not producing 2 SCVs at the moment because he is under a little bit of pressure. I like this positioning there by Puma, trying to lure these Marines into the firing range of those Hellions, but no way is Cass gonna fall for that. He's done a lot of good damage to that Banshee already. You can see the health of it very, very low. It could be caught out very easily. A couple of Marines picked off, but no economic damage done yet.
And the answer to the beginning question of this series would Puma do enough? And the answer is simply no. He has not even touched the economy of Cass, and he will have a much stronger mid-game because of this. And we do see Blue Flame being researched now, and a Blue Flame obviously will destroy Marines, and then the follow-up of Banshees will be an incredible combination here. But what is more important is a Medivac is about to come out. If he can land the Hellions into the main and then target down the economy line of Cass, obviously that would be an amazing position for him to be in. But Cass already sure of that option has Marines in the main base ready to anticipate any form of aggression from Puma. Cass has an answer to everything so far.
Yeah, Cass is not messing around, there's no doubt. He is ready, he knows exactly what's coming. He's figured out the transitions here. Interestingly enough, we're seeing 2 more factories being added on for Puma, so he is going mech in this particular game. I'm intrigued to see how well that works out. The Banshee's now been fully fixed up. We've got 4 of these Blue Flame Hellions coming in.
Will he be able to get in there? Cass doesn't see it right now. He's going to move across, but Blue Flame's going to do a lot of damage, but the Marines are not lined up, Total Biscuit.
Oh, very, very nicely done. And the positioning of the Marines is absolutely perfect. Annihilated. Cass slams it down on those 4 Hellions. So beautifully done. Puma was not in the correct firing position.
And this is the Cass that everybody plays against online. He is unbreakable and untouchable. He's so solid. He opens up with such an economic build, yet is unbreakable. And he now has a clear advantage, as you can see in the supply count going into the next stage of the game. And Puma has to try something else again. He is expanding at the same time. Well, both of these players are expanding at the same time, so the economy will stay the same again. But like you said, we are seeing mech versus bio, and Cass needs to take the advantage of having map control early, should be expanding earlier, should be using his money in terms of upgrades to get an advantage somewhere else, because if they do go toe-to-toe in a fight at equal supply, Puma will take the fight all game long, so Cass has to stretch his advantage, which he's gained, even further.
Yeah, his army right now is absolutely massive. If he strikes, then his opponent's going to be in a ton of trouble. Siege tech will be done, but there's only a single tank out. Doesn't make all that much difference. You need at least 3. And
Total Biscuit, 3 Hellions coming around the side, and there's no Marines anywhere.
Yeah, they sneak their way through
there.
there.
No, he returns.
Never mind, I guess. He doesn't go straight for the middle line. He should have. He could have done so much damage there. He loses that potential advantage. Now pulling back, probably as a result of this push over here, but look at the size of that army. It's terrifying.
Oh, he didn't see the push, so I have no idea why he returned. He's going to run into these Marines, and he does immediately pull back, and there's a drop into the main mess. Now there's no turrets, and this is where mech is so vulnerable because they haven't established that army.
Oh, the Viking was out of position as well, and the Marines are on the ground as much damage as they can, but 4 Blue Flame Hellions return. There's the cleanup, combined with the tank. Nicely held there by Puma, and a little bit of damage done, however. You can see worker supply has dropped quite heavily, and we've also got this attack on the natural expansion. The remaining Marines crash into that mineral line, dealing as much damage as they can. Puma immediately pulls off it, but look at this. 13 workers killed by Cass.
And Puma's not even mining in the main base. His SCVs were idle, and Puma is falling apart here by the Destroyer, who's showing us a high quality game here from Terran in Terran. And let's have a look at the mech. We are upgrading +1 vehicles, and it's nowhere near over, of course, but he did take significant economic damage as he lost 13 SCVs. And that stat alone should have been reversed in the scenario that we entered. And Cass is in fantastic position now, and he will want to start to add his own tanks on shortly. If he doesn't, then he's just going to go for a killing blow, because you do need tanks as you do play Bio. But look at the SCV count, Total Biscuit. 39 for Puma. 40 now versus 62.
And 3 mules coming down as well. He's already established his third. He is ready to start saturating it. And the fact of the matter is, as you pointed out earlier in the game, Puma had to do damage to prevent this macro-orientated approach. Cass is on his preferred 3 bases. Once Cass goes to 3 base, his production skyrockets, and he is at cruising altitude. He is not worried whatsoever. And he also, as you've mentioned, has great map control. We do have 5 Blue Flame Hellions in the center here, but this Marauder force combined with the Marines that are already at +1/+1 will easily crush that. Puma's going to pull back, and if he doesn't, it's going to take yet more damage. Thankfully, Cass does not have concussive shell ready just yet, so they get away.
Yeah, and in mech versus this kind of bio play is you don't mind losing Hellions, but at this stage that Puma is in, you actually can't throw away a Hellion. So we are going to see another Medivac drop, and well, unfortunately for Cass here, this is a flaw in his game that he hasn't got a sensor tower, he doesn't have anything spotting on the north side of the map, and Puma's going to be able to land all 4 of these Hellions, and that third base is completely undefended. Cass is not anticipating this drop, and that could be a game changer.
Yeah, Puma does need to get back into it, and that will be the best way to do it. That's also where most of the mules are, which is absolutely crucial. They've still got a lot of mining time left on them. Here come the reinforcements of Cass. He actually moves into position.
Totobuski's going to go for it. He needs to do damage here.
And he's going to be able to. There's no question about that. Look at the amount of damage that's coming down. 2 mules pushed already, and immediately out of there. Taking a lot of damage from the Medivac, though, which means that going back in would be risky.
And a big fight on the natural here as Cass goes in, and he goes behind the siege tank line. Siege tank is useless. But look at the Banshees doing so much damage combined with the blue flame.
Yeah, really, really nicely held there by Puma. He takes minimal damage, crushes Cass's army as he attempts to flank around. Lots of blue flame Hellions in good position, and all those Medivacs will die as well. I'm loving the air superiority that Puma has right now.
Yeah, very nice trade there for Puma. Does crawl back into this game, and he did kill 10 SCVs on that third base. So the SCV count now still pretty bad. Actually, it's got worse. I don't know how that happened. 38 versus 73 now. But he has established a new base in the center. He's going to take the gas, but his army is growing bigger and bigger. He's actually got a bigger supply count right now than Cass has, who's trying to take the center of the map. And all Puma needs to do is just slowly build up that army without taking any significant losses. And on the other hand, we do have 4 more barracks coming down. Cass is not even going to bother playing tanks. He's not going to slow the game down. He's just going for a decisive kill with so much bio, so much replenishment within that bio. And that Medivac still with 4 Hellions in, and there's nothing, again, defending that area. Yeah,
well, Castle's got visibility in the center. He sees this army rolling out, trying to work on those. If he can catch this army undeployed, but that's not going to happen because all of those Vikings are there. There's a couple of Vikings for Cass as well, so he can at least try and fire back, but air superiority is still in the hands of Puma, which gives him great visibility.
He's killing so many Medivacs too, which means the bio won't be able to get repaired, and as long as he keeps that air advantage, his Banshees can come in as well. So I really do like this combination, and the Hellions are on that third base again.
Oh my, yet more damage, and that's the problem Castle proposed. He has such economic approach. He will not build a planetary fortress on the third, which other players sometimes will, especially if they're at risk of harassment. And Castle's being pulled around here, and as you mentioned, with those Medivacs constantly going down for Cast, doing these big stims is not good for him at all.
And now it's 24 workers killed for Puma and 17 for Cass. He's turned that tally around, and now the income tab shows us a lot more balanced economy. And that's
so many Hellions going into it, and he's gone for Planetary Fortress, but it's nowhere near ready. That entire mineral line is gone. Hellion count is at a massive 18.
Oh, but the army supply is in favor of Cass right now. He can't walk into siege tanks, though.
That will be alright.
And yeah, he's got full control of the center of the map now. Even going to spread his tanks out a little bit to make sure he doesn't get flanked. And, actually, no, he's just going to go for it, man. He knows, he smells the advantage that he's at. And Puma, actually seeing the units come down, is going to have to defend more, so as a base race scenario would not be good. Bio versus mech.
Nope.
As a more mobile army will be able to take the advantages there, but if he controls the Celebi tower, if Puma takes control of that, that's Cass in a terrible position.
Oh yeah, even if he loses air superiority, as long as he's got that Celebi, he's got amazing range. Look at that. It is possible for Cass to get around, and he is actually going to try and flank his opponent entirely, moving all the way around the side of the map here.
And there's more Hellions at the top left, killing 3 to 4 mules up here as well. Puma just being resilient with these Hellions, will not leave them alone idly. He'll go in and kill all these SCVs, and Cass moving around towards the back. Puma just picks up and leaves, man. He doesn't even care. He'll try and save that command center, but it's the army versus army. It's 140 supply for Cass, but if he fights a straight up fight here, oh dear God, he's going to go for it with the tanks.
Oh, it's a big ugly stim right there. No medevac support. Has he got what he needs? He needs to get close with the tanks right now, or else he'll lose his entire army. He continues to force himself forward. Big losses on both sides. Cass breaks it only just.
Only just Photo Biscuit, and it looks like the reinforcements coming from the center map of Puma will be enough as he lands the Viking. So now the armies have traded. The income is in, well, it's actually a little bit equal here, but the army, I mean, the income has to be higher for Cass if he's going to play this bio versus mech. But look at the SCV count, did lose a few SCVs there, down at 38 versus 53 of Cass.
Oh, another big stim right there by Cass, going for the center. That's a lot of tanks he's going up against right now. Will he be able to do the damage necessary? Vikings get in, huge damage on the tanks, but it's not enough with SCV being pulled off the line to buffer the damage. Puma holds once again in the center.
He does hold once again, but his economy trashed once again, losing SCVs to buff that down to 32, and his main base is basically mined out, and the Natural's not got much longer left either, but Cass has an established base in the top left. Puma has to start that harassment again. He has to slow down Cass, otherwise he'll be able to overrun. Let's have a look at Cass's upgrades at 2-2, and the mech, is at 2-0. So even though at 2-2 is a very good upgrade, he also needs to work on 3-3, but he's so low in minerals, he's choosing to just build more units, as that's what he needs to combat this mech army.
Yes, absolutely. If he's able to just simply attack at one point and crush the army, very, very, very slow to reinforce from that point. Tanks have just this long, nasty build time, and if he can crush his way through, then that third base will go down. We've got this base now moving back into position. The question is, can Cass deal with it? Cass moves just outside of the sensor tower range, but I love the fact that Puma is using sensor towers here. He's using the sensor tower to counter the immobility of his own forces, so he can respond faster. Cass now realizing, you know what, this is too risky. I can't go with all of these tanks and all these Hellions ready to respond.
And for us map packing commentators, that fourth base of Puma is so exposed. If these Marine Marauders to run around and just snipe it, and it's a planetary fortress, you can't lift it, so it will go down. But let's have a look at Cass's vision. He doesn't know about it, so that would be an interesting point for him to do. And Puma still has two Hellions in that medevac at the top left, which I'm sure will come into play. They need to come into play, because Cass has taken the entire of the map. His income is double. It's at 3,000 minerals right now, compared to just 1,400, 1,200 of Puma, though his army is still looking pretty good. 90 supply of mech versus 115 of bio, but Cass has split his forces up here, Total Biscuit, and I'm getting a little bit worried for Puma, because if he gets caught in a pincer movement here by Cass as he reaches 200 supply, this could be game-ending despite having a good mech army.
Yeah, that's always the thing, isn't it? When if you don't control your siege tanks perfectly, the first salvo ends up going on one force, but the other comes in unassailed and unmolested. Lots of damage being done to the air superiority once again.
Cass is going for the pincer.
Oh, here it comes. They're coming in for one side. Goes for the crush. There's the snip coming in. Does he have enough of an army left there to deal with it? We're about to find out. He goes in. He breaks through the Hellion line, but does he have enough forces to deal with this? It looks like he does. He crushes the third base. Puma does not get it off the ground.
Wow, and it looks like Cass the Destroyer has just demolished the mech